If you walk into a Kia showroom, you're going to see a Seltos and many other crossovers that are smaller and much bigger. So what is making the Seltos new for 2024? There's a mild refresh with some new technology inside, some minor style tweaks outside, and some more horsepower on the top trims. Let's go for a drive. The Seltos is the second of 5 Kia SUVs that begin with the letter S. There's also a minivan and the Niro, which is available as an EV and a plug-in hybrid. So there's lots of different choices. The Seltos isn't that much larger than the Soul. It is on the outside, not so much on the inside, but it's right sized, it's right styled, and with all the technology underneath, a pretty good deal for 2024. The Seltos keeps it simple. Naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine as the base trim, is actually the first 4 trims. You get decent power, good fuel efficiency up to 34 mpg highway. Comes with a CVT and front-wheel drive is standard. On the upper trims like this SX and the X-Line all-wheel drive comes standard with an 8-speed automatic and a smaller but turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And for this year, for 2024, there's 20 more horsepower, 195 in total, and a matching amount of torque. Of course, fuel efficiency on this model, not quite as good, but it's definitely quicker. The Seltos gets some mild styling tweaks for 2024. In the front, you get new LED headlight designs if you get those upper trims. And on this SX model, got some nice connecting LEDs going through the grille. At night, it looks pretty special when you see a Seltos coming up on you in the rearview mirror. Actually does. There's also new wheel designs, there's new taillight designs out in the back, new front and rear bumpers. On this SX trim, you're not getting a metal skid plate, that's all for the look. But overall, it's a pretty stylish looking car. It's not quite as trendy as some of the other Kia models, and I'm glad for that, like the Sportage, for example. This one will probably last longer, looking more modern for a longer time. I like that. And overall, it's giving you all those dimensions you want. Just tall enough, not too tall, not too wide, and it's really, crucially, not too small. In this size class, SUVs like this are typically tight, but not here. 27 cubic feet behind the seats and 63 when folded. That's pretty impressive. This brown, that's new for 2024, and so are these screens. All digital, no matter which trim you buy. The Seltos in SX trim gives off a Mercedes GLA vibe. In many instances, I think it looks better. Nicer colors, including this leatherette on the dash, nice uses of switches, real buttons, touchscreens, and nice polished black plastic. And there's a few surprises, like the speaker grills. They're polygonal. The Seltos is nice and airy in here. Overall, the materials are also pretty good. You're feeling like you're riding up higher than you actually are. High armrests, and also a higher seating position. Compared to how cramped a lot of other subcompact SUVs can be, back here, there's room everywhere. Stepping inside the Seltos gets you modern technology, like this infotainment screen that's 10¼ inches, but it's got maps, it's got live traffic, wireless updates. It doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay, that is still missing. You have to get a wired connection on other Hyundai and Kia models, it's not available here. But aside from that, it's got other features, like a sound mood lamp that will basically colorize the ambient lighting, kind of like the original Kia Soul did. That's a gimmick. But other things are very useful. Other parts of the screen, much easier to adjust, such as the driver assistance settings. All the menus and submenus, well, not only do they work better, not only are the typefaces easier to read, it's just easier to work and adjust. Even up here, if you're missing what's happening, you can scan your smartphone with this QR code. It's not the same as having the owner's manual on the actual car itself. You have to spend a lot more money for that. But this Kia system is just better laid out, it's better thought out. This is a gutsy little engine for a small car like this. A lot of times with this type of power rating, just about 200 horsepower, you're gonna have to get into a compact SUV one size up. But Kia offers this as an option, and it doesn't come cheap because you have to spend close to 30 or over 30 grand on these top 2 trims. But when you do that, you're also getting all the other amenities, all the nicer seats, cooled seats, for example. When I first drove the Seltos, I did like how sporty it was to drive, and it feels that way still. I think a small car should feel sporty, and there's some cars that don't react as well. Check out my review of the Chevy Trax. It doesn't quite steer as quickly as this Seltos, and by quickly, I mean reaction time. A small car should always feel like it's reacting quicker, but it all depends on the steering ratios, it all depends on how the suspension tune is. They're never gonna ride as well as larger cars with longer wheelbases, that's just the facts. But it's not a Mini Cooper, and by that I mean it's not ultra stiff as a board, not at all. Most people are gonna find this Seltos very agreeable in ride, in the comfort, and also just the fun to drive aspect when the road really does open up. There's no paddle shifters. I don't think you're gonna really want to use them anyway. Kia's 8-speed automatic, it's just okay. I really don't think their transmissions are top of the class. They don't react quite as well. I think that if you really want a better powertrain, you're going into a car like a Mazda or a Honda, for example. They're really straightened that out. But this car is good, definitely is. Yeah, the handling, I think, is my favorite part of the Seltos, because there's not a lot of body lean, there's not really a ton of noise either. 20 extra horsepower is noticeable in a car that weighs just over 3,300 pounds. That's nice and light. And just as an example, if you're getting into an EV of this size, say the Hyundai Kona Electric, you're adding hundreds and hundreds of pounds extra for really no reason. So for efficiency's sake, as a new car, a car like this is really all you need. But just remember, like I said before, with fuel efficiency, it's not the turbo. It absolutely isn't. Your mileage on the highway drops a lot. 27 versus 34 with the front wheel drive. If you're living in a nice sunny area and you really don't need the all-wheel drive traction, I would say drop it and get the smaller engine with front wheel drive. You'll save a lot on gas, and you're just gonna save on monthly costs, let's face it. Brake pedal feel is surprisingly good. I got no complaints. The 2024 Kia Seltos starts at $24,390. There's 5 trims, and this SX with the turbo and all-wheel drive is fully loaded at $33,085 with destination. The Seltos has a lot of other competitors, including in the Kia lineup. The Soul, for example. There's also the Mazda CX-30, Chevy Trailblazer, Jeep Renegade, Subaru Crosstrek. I could go on and on and on. It's a very popular segment. The market is very crowded, so shop on price. This one fully loaded is getting you all the nice features that you can't get in the lower trims and more horsepower. But remember, for just a little bit more, you could be stepping up to something larger. That's where I think the subcompact SUV class has a problem, because as a buyer, if you're walking into a Kia showroom, you're gonna want the most space for your money unless parking and size are a main concern. This is a pretty good car, but I would also shop around. That's just my opinion. For more details, check out CarGurus.com, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.